on rhetorical display. First, tell yourself what you want to be. Then act your part accordingly. This, after all, is what we find to be the rule in just about every other field. Athletes decide first what they want to be, then proceed to do what is necessary. If they decide to be a distance runner, it means one particular diet, race course, workout, and mode of physical therapy. If they want to be sprinters, those factors are different. And if it's a pentathlete they want to be, they vary again. You will find the same thing true of the crafts. If you want to be a carpenter, you will have one kind of training. If you want to be a sculptor, quite another. All our efforts must be directed towards an end, or we will act in vain. If it is not the right end, we will fail utterly. Now, there are two standards of reference, one general and one particular. To begin with, then, we must act like a human being, which means not like a sheep, however gentle, nor violently like a wild beast. The particular standard relates to the skill and the end to which it is put. The musician should act like a musician, the carpenter like a carpenter, the philosopher like a philosopher, the orator like an orator. Therefore, when you say, "Come and hear me lecture," be sure you have a purpose in lecturing. When you find your direction, check to make sure that it is the right one. Is it your goal to educate or to be praised? Right away the answer comes back. What do I care for the praise of the vulgar masses? And those are fine words. The musician too. The musician does not care about praise any more than praise matters to a mathematician. So you aim to educate, you say, but for what purpose? Tell us, so we will go running to the auditorium too. Can anyone educate others, though, if they have not first been educated themselves? No, any more than a person who is not a carpenter can give lessons in carpentry, or someone who is not a cobbler can give lessons in making shoes. Do you want to know if you are educated? Show us your values, philosopher. What is the goal of the faculty of desire? Not to fail in desire. Of aversion. Not to get what it doesn't want. Well, are we meeting these goals? Tell me the truth, because if you lie, I will say to you, the other day your audience greeted you rather coolly and didn't applaud, and you left dejected. Another day, having been acclaimed, you went around and said to everyone, "How do you think I did?" "Splendidly, sir, on my word." "How did that one part come off?" "Which?" "The one where I described Pan and the nymphs." "It was marvelous." Then you try to tell me that, with regard to desire and aversion, you are behaving in line with nature? Get lost. Try telling it to somebody else. Didn't you praise someone just the other day in defiance of your true opinion? Weren't you sucking up to some officer? How would you like it if your children acted that way? God forbid. Then why were you praising and extolling him so? He's a clever young man and a fan of rhetoric. How do you know? He praises me. Oh, well, that proves it, of course. Look, what do you think is really going on? Don't these same people secretly despise you? I mean, if someone hears himself described by a philosopher as a great talent, ingenious and unspoiled, when he's well aware that he hasn't done the man any good or even wished him well, what must he be thinking except, he must want me for some favor or another? If that's wrong, then tell me, what sign of great talent has he displayed? I mean, he's been with you for some time. He's heard you engage in dialogue. He's heard you lecture on philosophy. Has he gained self-control? Has he taken himself in hand? Has he come to a realization of his faults? Has he shed his presumption and begun looking for a teacher? He has. One who will teach him how to live? No, fool. One who will teach him how to turn a phrase instead, because that is precisely what he admires you for. Just listen to what he says. This person writes with great sophistication, much better than Dio. It's a whole other matter. He doesn't say, the man is civil, he is constant, he is calm. And even if he had said it, I would have asked, since this man is constant, what characteristics does the constant man have? And if he could not say, I would have added, understand what words you use first, then use them. So in your sorry state, eager for admirers, counting the number of audience members, do you intend to come to others' assistance? Today I had a much bigger audience. There certainly was a crowd. I put the turnout at around 500. Nonsense, it was 1,000 at least. That many never showed up to hear Dio. Him? Never. And it was a sophisticated audience, too, where their taste in rhetoric was concerned. Sir, beauty can even move a stone. There are the words of a philosopher for you, and the character of a man bound to benefit humanity. There's one who has listened to reason, certainly, and read the Socratic discourses as coming from Socrates, not coming from Lysias or Isocrates. I often wondered by what sort of arguments, stop right there, by what sort of argument reads better. You read them as if they were pretty poems. If you read them properly, you wouldn't care about that. You would attend more to this. Anytus and Meletus can kill me, but they cannot harm me. I've always been the sort to attend to the argument that seems the best to me upon inspection, even to the detriment of my own affairs. Which is why no one ever heard him say, I know something, and I can teach it. No, I suppose you think he would say to his companion, Come listen to me speak today at the house of Cadatrus. Why should I hear you speak? You want to show me that you can arrange words elegantly? So you do. But what do you gain by it? You're supposed to praise me. What do you mean, praise me? Shout bravo and marvelous. Fine, I'll shout it. But if praise is one of those things that philosophers categorize as good, then how can I praise you? Teach me that it is good to be eloquent, and I will praise you. Should listening to speeches be an experience totally devoid of pleasure, then? Of course not. I take pleasure in listening to lyre players, too. But is that good enough reason for me to get up and play the lyre? Listen to what Socrates says. It would not suit me, at my age, gentlemen, to come before you, formulating phrases like a callow youth. It is an exquisite little art, this choosing up words, joining them together, then appearing in public to give them an artistic reading. And how delightful if during the recital someone shouts out, Not many people can appreciate this, by God! Does a philosopher solicit an audience? As the sun draws sustenance to itself, that is how a true philosopher attracts people who stand in need of help. What sort of doctor is it that invites patients to be treated by him? And yet I hear that in Rome, now even the doctors advertise for patients. In my day it was the other way around. I invite you to come and hear how unwell you are, how you care for everything except what counts, how you don't know good from evil, that you are unhappy and unsuccessful. What a charming invitation. And yet, if the philosopher does not make such an impression with his speech, it's dead. And the speaker might as well be too. Rufus used to say, If you have nothing better to do than praise me for it, then my speech was a failure. He used to address us in such a way as to make everyone sitting there suppose that someone had informed on them. That's how well he intuited the truth and how vividly he evoked for each one of us our private faults. Friends, the school of a philosopher is a hospital. When you leave, you should have suffered, not enjoyed yourself, because you enter not in a state of health, but with a dislocated shoulder. It may be, or an abscess, a fistula, or head pain. So am I supposed to sit down alongside you and recite clever thoughts and phrases, so that patients applaud and leave with their shoulder in the same condition as when they were admitted? Their head, their abscess, their fistula, the same? Is it for this that young people should travel abroad, leaving behind their parents, friends, relations, and possessions, all so that they can say, "Bravo!" when you deliver your clever phrases? Is this what Socrates, Zeno, or Cleanthes did? Well, isn't there the protreptic style of discourse? Naturally, as there are the alenctic and didactic styles. But whoever included the epideictic style in the curriculum as a fourth subject? The oratory style purports to expose all the conflict in which they are embroiled, and how they are interested in everything except what they want. Because what people want is what conduces to happiness, but they look for it in the wrong place. If this is to happen, do we really need 1,000 chairs set up, invitations sent out, and the speaker turned out in a fancy robe or gown, astride a podium narrating the death of Achilles? For God's sake, do your best to honor such famous names and deeds by forbearing to name them. There is nothing more inspiring than a speaker who makes clear to his audience that he has need of them. Tell me, has anyone who has ever heard you read or discourse felt self-remorse as a result, or experienced self-realization, or afterwards left thinking, "The philosopher touched a nerve there. I can't go on acting as I have"? No. If you perform really well, one says to another, "He put the bit about Xerxes nicely, I thought." And another says, "I liked his description of the Battle of Thermopylae better." Does that sound like the lecture of a philosopher?